Hey there, aspiring guitarist. A guest bedroom is a wonderful place to prepare an upcoming guitar lesson. It's also a great place to hang some additional guitars outside your studio until you have guests. And like my wife said, who you going to trust in that room with those guitars, even though those aren't the most fancy ones? So, with that said, a guest bedroom makes a great place to lay out tablature books, scale diagrams. And the reason I'm telling you this is we're going to have an upcoming lesson about the C major scale and other scales that are different. And we're going to do some things. You can see I've drawn out things about intervals and steps. Don't let this confuse you, but down here you've got the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, repeat. And up here I've taken the C scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And y'all have heard me say in the past, the reason I teach the C major scale first is because it has nothing but whole notes. So let's just, okay, this is a folding fretboard chart. This is one of my famous guitar necks, and this is one of my blanks that I put notes on. So you are looking at this guitar neck as if you were staring at me holding the guitar. Same thing with this fretboard chart. Okay? Except there's a difference. The fretboard chart, sure, it's displaying the neck, but it's not the same. In other words, if I were to look at that fretboard chart the way you're looking at me holding the guitar facing me, I would have to flip it over like I just did. The same to get the same, because let's put the nuts together. All right, so elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. First fret, second fret, third fret. See the dots? Okay, so here we are. The headstock would be this way on this fretboard chart that flips. But what I'm going to do in the upcoming lesson, I'm going to use these facilities. I'm not just going to lay something up on the screen like you see so many do. I'm going to actually try to reference the guitar neck fretboard and this fretboard chart to where we see that a C major scale also has degrees and intervals. And this is the guitarist scale book, Watch and Learn. So I'm using a bunch of resources, including the pocket dictionary. When we have this upcoming lesson, I'm going to talk about root notes and tonics. But the biggest thing I'm trying to get people to see, a lot of people, they learn the C major scale. All right, let's put this in perspective of the guitar again. So the C major scale, here's the sixth string, the top string, fifth string, fourth string, sixth string, fifth string, fourth. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. But here's what I'm trying to get you to learn. Scales are different, but the intervals are important. Now we're gonna use the Pocket Music Dictionary in this future, because we're going to say the major diatonic. Well, I'm going to stop and say, wait a minute, what's a diatonic? But look at this. So scale degree intervals. Now they're different depending upon the myriad of different scales. Let me get my thumb to work. You see is that whole Mixolonian, F minor pentatonic. As you see as I flip, this has every scale imaginable. I have other books that show scales that we're going to get into. What is a scale? We're going to use all this, but what I want you to realize, if I take the C scale, now watch, I'm going to walk through it. So here we go again. Top string 6, the low E, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so if I was to do the C scale, I would start here on the 3rd fret, 5th string. C, D, E, F. Now remember, E to F is that half step. G, A, B, and then I return to the tonic. What is the tonic? The root, the key note of the scale. Now, what I actually just did, the steps I moved from C to D was a whole step because I have a half step, 2 half steps, or a whole step. Then I had another whole step to E, then a half step. So far I've done tonic, whole step, half step. Now that's exactly what we were talking about in the C major scale. And then if you carried it on, remember I've done C to D, that's a whole step, to E is a whole step, to F is a half step. Then comes the next part of this form, whole, half. So let's do it again. Tonic, root C to D is whole, to E is whole, to F is a half. Then we go back to our whole, half. So F to G is a whole, G to A is a whole, A to B is a whole, and then we end B to C with a half. And you may be thinking, what the heck? But I'm trying to get you to understand that a major scale the C major scale is the one that has nothing but whole notes. If I move that same interval to a G, okay, then I'm going to get a different, this is the pattern, tonic or root, whole, half, whole, half. Now, every scale is not that way. Different scales have different formulas. What are these formulas? Those are the patterns. When you learn an A minor pentatonic without learning the notes, and you start up here on the 5th fret, and you start with A and you jump over to C, that's actually a whole plus a half. So the scale is different. And before you go, oh my God, I'll never want to learn all this, you learn them and they build upon each other. So they can seem overwhelming, but they're really not. But I want you to understand, just because you've learned the C major scale, and it's important to me that you learn it first because you realize whole notes, it makes the scale easier to look at and find. But let's say I do the G major scale. Okay, so what's the pattern again? Whole, half, whole, half. So you got 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half. And that's this pattern. That's what you're learning when you don't think about any of the notes or the positions or the skill. You're getting familiar with that pattern. So let's take the C major and change it to the G major, which has this pattern. 2 wholes, a half, 3 wholes, a half. So if I go G's the tonic, G is the tonic, the root. Remember where I'm at. I'm on the 3rd fret, 6th string, top string, the one going to the ceiling. How did I get there? E, F, G. Okay, so G to A, that's your whole step. So I got to have another one. A to B, That's your whole step. Now I got to throw a half step in there to C. And remember, that's natural. So you're at the C. And now you got to move another whole step to D. Then you got to move another whole step to E. And here comes the difference. Now you got to have another whole step before you hit that last half. And I'm not going to hit a major note. I'm going to hit an F sharp. And then the ending is a half step on G. And we're back to the tonic, the root note. So, have you ever looked at the clef and they'll have the key signatures up there? Okay, so if I take the chord wheel, pardon the reflection, and I move to G, what's the key signature that sits beside the great treble clef, the G? It's one sharp. Why? Because we just showed you there is one sharp. Remember, I showed it to you in the G major scale. So scales are different. And I'm gonna dive a little more into scales, and this might not have even made a lot of sense to you. But understand, scales are different. There's a reason I start a student on the C major, because it uses major notes. They're easy to find. So, or you can just memorize the pattern and never learn anymore but patterns. And that's okay. Many people do that. They do great. But by memorizing the notes, the scale intervals, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and realizing that this is not the same for a pentatonic. It's not the same for different types of scales. But you may think, oh God, I'll never learn all this. Well, you don't have to learn it all at once. Your guitar journey can be a never-ending learning thing. So this is something we're going to get into, and I'm going to do it from my guest bedroom. Hopefully nobody will come visit and mess with my guitars, but I guess if I have a visitor, I'll put them in the cases and move them to the guitar studio, because, you know, I'm kind of nerdy like that. But anyway, I hope your guitar journey is blessed, and most of all, happy picking.